It was 3:02 a.m. My phone vibrated. I had a notification from my doorbell camera. I looked at the screen. There was a strange man standing in front of my door. But the strange part was that he wasn't moving at all. Sometimes at night you get this weird feeling for no reason, like the house is quiet. But something about that silence feels wrong. When my phone vibrated, I sat up on the couch. It was a notification from my doorbell camera. Normally, I wouldn't even check it. But like I said, that night, something felt off. So I opened the app. The camera feed appeared. And there he was. Someone standing in front of my door. He wasn't right next to it, maybe about 2 meters away. His head was slightly tilted down. His arms were hanging by his sides. At first I thought it was just a neighbor. Maybe he had the wrong door. Or maybe it was just some drunk guy. But then I noticed something. The man wasn't moving. Not even a little. His head didn't move. His shoulders didn't move. Nothing. It looked like someone had taken a photo and just paused it. But this was a live feed. The clock under the camera kept moving. 3:03, 3:05, 3:07, and he was still there. At that point, it started to feel unsettling. I kept staring at the screen. My heart was beating a little faster now, but I kept trying to explain it to myself. Maybe he was on the phone. Maybe he was waiting for someone. But he hadn't knocked. He hadn't rung the bell. He was just standing there. After a while, the camera switched to night vision. The image turned black and white. And that's when I noticed something else. I still couldn't see his face. His head was tilted downward. He was wearing a fedora, and the brim of the hat covered his face. The shadow hid everything. He looked really strange. But something else caught my attention. His chest. It wasn't moving, which meant it looked like he wasn't breathing. About half an hour passed. 3:31 a.m. He was still there. At that point, the feeling in my chest was unbearable. Finally, I said to myself, "This is ridiculous." I grabbed my phone and put it in my pocket. I'm not a coward. If someone was standing outside my door for half an hour, I was going to go down there and find out what he wanted. I figured if anything weird happened, I could always call the police. Brave, maybe, but not stupid. I opened my apartment door. The hallway was dark. A dim yellow light from the stairwell was reflecting on the walls. My footsteps echoed as I walked down the stairs. I'll admit something though. My heart was beating faster than I expected. I got close to the door. Took out my phone again. The camera feed was still open. The man was still there on the screen, and I was standing right at the door. I took a deep breath and opened it. The doorway was empty. The street was completely silent. No shadow, no movement, no one. I stood there for a few seconds, then slowly closed the door and walked back upstairs. I remember thinking, see, whoever it was must have run off when they saw me. I actually felt proud of myself for a moment. Probably just some crazy guy. I went back into my apartment and locked the door. Took out my phone. I figured I'd scroll through social media for a bit since I was wide awake now. But right at that moment, something inside me nudged me again, like a small voice saying, "Check the camera again." So I opened the doorbell camera, and the moment I saw the screen, it felt like someone punched me in the stomach. Because the man was still there. At that point, I was getting seriously irritated. Just as I was about to close the app, I heard something very faint. At first, I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Then I realized it was coming from the phone. The doorbell camera recorded sound too, so I turned the volume up. At first there was just wind. Then I heard something else, a low murmur, almost like someone whispering to themselves, slow, monotone, cold. I wasn't even sure the sound was coming from the man, because he was still standing 2 meters away from the door. The whole situation was absurd. What was this guy doing? What did he want? My chest tightened. I was trying to make sense of it. Then the whisper came again, this time clearer, more disturbing. And suddenly, I realized something. The sound wasn't coming from the camera. It felt like it was echoing inside my head. Slowly, I lifted my head. My room was dark. My heart was pounding. Then I looked back at the phone. The man had lifted his head. For the first time, slowly, very slowly. And now, he was looking directly at the camera. His face was still hidden in shadow, but something else caught my attention. The camera feed had a slight delay, about 2 seconds, which meant the man was actually moving. 2 seconds ahead of what I was seeing. I gripped the phone tightly. The man kept staring at the camera. Then, he tilted his head slightly to the side, like he was watching me. And right then, a whisper came from the phone speaker. Very quiet, just 2 words.
I see you.
The next morning I called the police. I showed them the footage, but there was a problem. The officer showed me the recording. There was no one there. The entire night, the camera showed an empty doorway. Not a single person. I showed them my phone, but when I opened the video, the footage was gone. Only a single frame remained. The last frame. And something about it was wrong. The doorbell camera normally only shows the outside, but this image looked like it had been taken from inside my house. You could see my living room, and there I was, standing there, facing the camera. But that wasn't the worst part, because the man in the fedora was standing right behind me. I moved out of that house after that. But sometimes, late at night, my phone vibrates. Another notification from the doorbell camera. When I check it, there's no one at the door, but the recording still has sound. A slow, low, murmuring. And sometimes, very quietly, I hear a whisper.
Open the door.